All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Apex V2R Reviews. Today, I have something very special to talk to you guys about. So, for a long time, I've been thinking about doing sound transducers on my rig to get some vibrations and feedback through the seat and see how that goes. I had tried some Buttkicker Gamer 2s, which is just a single transducer. Not sure how I was feeling about those, so I said, you know what, let's just do some proper review. Do it well, give it a proper test. So for a couple of weeks I was looking online, I was looking at some forums, looking at some chats, trying to wrap my head around how to do it and do it well. I gotta say, it was a tough search. There wasn't really an easy source to tune in and really understand simply how to go into it. So you really had to dive in and look at some technical notes. So after 2 weeks, I thought I was ready. I actually stumbled upon this site that's called Smoketronics, and it looked like they had some decent kits there. So after looking at some options, I thought I had the right choice. So I reached out to them. I said, this is what I'm looking to do. This is what I'm thinking about. Turns out I was completely wrong. So thank God for their experience and their knowledge. They were amazing guys, pointing me in the right direction, and we ended up building a kit. So what we ended up going with, we have 4 Buttkicker Mini LFEs for the transducers themselves, and then we're running 2 Dayton 150, so 2-channel amps, so 4 channels in total, so we can control everything individually. And what we went for is trying to reproduce chassis vibrations. One of the things that we ended up playing a lot around once we first started to install the Buttkickers was location. So the first time on my feet, I actually had them on my top plate since I'm using a pedal inversion, which was getting some feedback, but it was very faint. So I ended up moving those to my heel plates. So now they're underneath my feet, and that made a huge change. For the back portion or the seat portion, I had them on the frame initially, which we're using an 80/20 rig, and it was very faint again. So based on some recommendations, we ended up drilling some holes underneath the seat, and wow, did that make a difference. First off, the position of your butt kickers or your sound transducers is going to be extremely important. So you want to do some research there, and don't be afraid to test a couple of locations and see what will work better for your setup. Again, for us, we made some holes underneath our heel plate for the pedals, and we made some holes in our fiberglass seat, and that is what gave us the best result. Now, settings on your amp and settings on the software that you choose. In our case, since we're using Sim Commander for the AccuForce steering wheel, we're using Simvibe to control everything. So you want to spend some time there, and I got to say we're about 3 days in, and I'm still playing around with the settings, but I've definitely understood a lot of things and picked up on a lot of little small details, and I've been able to definitely make some huge improvements. So what I'm going to do before I actually get driving here and give you a review, I'm actually going to go into the settings and kind of give you an idea of everything that you can tune with Simvibe. Alright, so let's pull up the settings here. So I got my Simvibe chassis. This is what you would have seen in our last review when I was playing around with the AccuForce steering wheel. So Simvibe chassis. So first off, you've got a lot of channels here. When you start off, you won't have as many as this. But you can go add, and you can see all of the channels that you can add from there, such as gear changes, gear grinds if you want to feel the misshift, oversteer moments, road bumps, road textures. Keeps going on and on here. So I've already chosen my preferred channels. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of stuff here. But what you can do now is you can actually turn them on or off and click on them to open up more details. For example, if I've got my RPMs or engine vibrations up here, I can choose my RPMs. If you just select auto, probably be best. It will find out what car you're driving and the minimum and maximum RPMs. Then this is where it gets really interesting and where you really want to play around. So your tones. This is the frequency that the speaker or the sound transducers are going to respond to. So lowest is a deeper vibration, obviously, but a slower vibration, and then the higher you bring your frequency, the opposite effect. You can play with these settings and then keep driving and see what works. The other little quick trick, if you go back to your main screen, hit your settings, Sim Device Manager, go to your Simvibe chassis, you can actually select a tone. So I can go to 90, and then I can click on the individual speakers and see how that feels through the individual speakers. And based on that, then you can set it. For myself, if I go back to my settings, for example, road bumps, I want to be able to select something low in case, I drop off a big curb and I want to feel that deep vibration. But at the same time, if I go over a small bump, like a curb, I want to be able to feel that smaller vibration but a quicker response. So I've chosen a higher frequency there. Anyways, like I said, I'm only 3 days in, and I'm sure my settings are probably going to change drastically. If some of you at home have Simvibe and have Buttkickers, you probably know a lot more than I do at this point, but definitely it's some just trial and error and then see what you prefer. Like I said, I've already made some significant improvements in how it feels, but I'm sure that as I play around more with the software, then it's just going to get better. Let's go for a drive and see how it works. So one of the cool things right off the get-go is I'm actually feeling engine RPMs not only through my steering wheel anymore, I can feel it through my pedals, my feet, and my seat. And if I just hit the RPMs here and bring up the revs, you can actually feel that vibration change as the frequency changes, which is just like the real thing. I gotta say, it is absolutely immersive. And like I said, I had tried the Buttkicker 2, which was only one sound transducers. I was not getting as much detail as I am getting here. The immersion is uncomparable. All right, so let's get to driving. Let's not exceed the speed limit. All right, one of the cool features that I like about it is the gear shifts. So every time I'm shifting gears now, I can feel a slight nudge of the chassis, which is just like that gear engaging on a dual clutch transmission car. As I'm going over curbs, same effect, I can feel that vibration from the curb. If I were to go off track and on track, you can feel that rougher vibration, which you would get from a different texture. And approaching a big braking here. It's to the point where as I'm going over different curbs, I can actually feel the difference in the height. So this is a bigger drop, bigger bump, smaller curb, smaller vibrations. Even just going over the road, there are bumps on the tracks, on the actual paved portion of these tracks, I couldn't feel before. And now they're there. And for me, the way I have my settings, if there's a bump in the road, I can actually feel it go through the heels first, and then a fraction of time later, go through the seat, which is just like the real thing. I know there's been debates too where some guys are trying to feel, the bump if it's left or right. In my case, on where I have my Buttkickers mounted to, they're actually quite close to each other. So it does start to kind of wash in together. I can faintly tell which side it's coming from. I'm sure if I were to play around with different positions, I could probably get that left or right feeling a little bit more. My only fear is if I bring them further from where my feet are connected, for example, that I could lose some of the strength in the transducer itself. So the settings will become more faint, although I might be able to feel them more left or right. For now, I got to say that I'm quite pleased with the feedback that I'm getting. Another thing that's kind of neat that it's one of the things that when I coach drivers, I often talk about, and it's reference points. And reference points are important to have as many as possible when you're going through corners as a driver to make sure that you can be consistent. And they're not always visual, but without transducers, you can get feedback, tactile feedback from your steering wheel, and that's about it. With these sound transducers, you actually get the feedback from the curbs, and you can actually start using that feeling as a reference point. to the point where if you hit the curb just the right way, that vibration will be the same lap after lap. And I find it's kind of a reward. So you want to feel that vibration because it's cool. So it kind of forces you to hit your reference points on curbs more for that instant reward of the tactile feedback. So in past reviews, I've always kind of mentioned stuff if I think it's going to make me a faster or better driver. In this case, I'd be willing to debate that using the butt kickers will make me a faster driver because it's going to make me tune into those reference points that I didn't used to have when I didn't have tactile transducers. So in the end, would I recommend sound transducers or butt kickers? I think absolutely. Now, it isn't a cheap option. It's not something that you want to try and cheap out and use inferior products to do, because I really don't think you're going to get enough detail or enough vibration to really have anything useful. And I think it's just going to leave you wanting to have, or leave you thinking that you should have just spent more from the beginning. The other thing is if you're starting to do some research and you're trying to figure out how to do this on your own, I found that it can be a little daunting. The good news is, and what we're currently working on, we are looking to offer a turnkey solution. So what we would do is we would actually send you out the butt kickers, the amps, all of the wiring pre-done, some templates so that you can drill your holes in case that you have to, depending on where you want to mount them, and including the license for Simvibe. The other thing that we're probably going to include is either some instruction or both, some instructions on how to set everything up, or we can offer you some time that we can remote connect to your PC and guide you through setting everything up to make sure that you're ready to go and don't have to do all of the research that we've done, and then again just offer you that easy, simple turnkey solution. So stay tuned for more information and pricing on that. Until then, if you do have questions, just reach out. If you're in the area and you want to see how it feels, stop in, say hi. Till then, see you on the virtual tracks.